In the year 551 BC, in the state of Lu, one fine autumn morning, a baby was born to an impoverished noble family. People at that time could not have imagined that this baby boy would later bring about tremendous changes in Chinese society. His name was Confucius. The Temple of Confucius is dedicated to his worship. Covering an area of 22 hectares, it features exquisite architecture on a grand scale, a unified and balanced layout, and it reflects the traditions of ancient Chinese architectural art. Its size and the specifications of its construction are equivalent to those of Chinese imperial architecture. With a history of over 2,000 years, the temple is a unique building in the cultural history of mankind. The Confucius family mansion, also known as the Kung family mansion, is the official residence of the direct descendants of Confucius and the largest and most luxurious aristocratic manor remaining in China. The cemetery of Confucius is a family burial ground for Confucius and his descendants. Occupying an area of nearly 2 million square meters, it is the longest and largest family cemetery in the world. These three historic sites are located in the city of Qufu, Shandong province in northern China. At the beginning of the 16th century, during the Ming dynasty, the Temple of Confucius was located several miles to the east of the county seat. In order to protect the temple from local bandits, the people moved the county seat eastward, and they rebuilt Qufu with the temple at its center. The move took a decade. It served not only to defend the temple, but also the cemetery of Confucius and the Confucius family mansion. Spanning 2,500 years of historical change, what forces have been brought to bear to support the development of the temple and cemetery of Confucius and the Confucius family mansion? In the year 549 BC, the then 3-year-old Confucius lost his father. His family was ruined. His mother took him to the capital Qufu, and they lived on a small lane. In his childhood, Confucius enjoyed imitating a variety of ritual etiquettes, an activity which became a favorite game. At the time, only the children of the nobility had the right to receive an education. But although Confucius lived a poor life, he did after all belong to the aristocracy, so he was eligible to receive an education. Due to the poverty of the family and the social unrest of the period in which he lived, Confucius always acutely felt the hardships of life and the suffering of the people. It was in such an environment that Confucius formed the ambition of transforming society. By the time he was in his 30s, Confucius was already famous for his learned knowledge, and so the monarch of Qi asked Confucius how to govern the country. Confucius replied, "There is government when the monarch is a monarch and the minister is a minister, when the father is a father and the son is a son." Confucius meant that in any country the monarch should have the highest power, and in a family the father should be the absolute authority. This was his commentary on the chaotic social order of his day. Confucius's political views were further carried forward by his successors, and they became an important theoretical basis for a centralized system. Confucius's core political theory ran that if law leads people and punishments are enacted uniformly, then the people will try to avoid the punishment, but they will have no sense of shame for the crime. If, however, they are led by virtue and the rules of propriety are respected uniformly, then they will have a sense of shame, and moreover, they will become good people. Moral forces are more effective than laws, so a ruler should rule a country by virtue. In the eyes of Confucius, social relationships consist of 5 kinds of ethics: between ruler and minister, father and son, husband and wife, brothers, and friends. On one occasion, a student of Confucius called Zixia asked Confucius, "What is filial piety?" Confucius replied, "Filial piety nowadays means the support of one's parents, but people can do similar things to dogs and horses. Without emotion of filial piety in heart, what is there to distinguish supporting parents from feeding animals?" Rulers should respect their ministers, and ministers should remain loyal to their ruler. Husbands and wives should love each other. A husband should undertake his responsibilities, and a wife should obey her husband. Brothers should be humble. The older brother should treat his younger brothers kindly, and the younger brothers should respect their elder brother. Friends should be honest, and they should sincerely advise of each other's faults. Confucius tried to restore the power of the king and prevent the occurrence of war through the bindings of ethics and morality. This was, in fact, impossible in such an era of great change, but whenever Chinese society was stable, Confucius's ideas were the preferred approach by government. Confucius's political views favor centralized consolidation, and his ethical thoughts are appropriate guidelines for the lives of civilians, both forming a social basis of national stability. This is the outer gate of the Temple of Confucius, also known as Yangxiang Gate. The 4 characters on the doorhead, which literally mean walls of tremendous height, are a metaphor for Confucius's extensive and profound knowledge. The main body of the Temple of Confucius is on a north-south central axis more than 1 kilometer long. It is composed of 54 gates, 466 rooms, and 9 courtyards. The apricot platform is said to be the place where Confucius gave lectures. The apricot platform was founded in the 11th century. It is 12 meters high, features double yellow roof tiles and colorful coiling dragons. The simple but elegant stone incense burner in front of the apricot platform is from the Jin dynasty. The tendrils of smoke drifting from the incense burner recall the scene of Confucius as a teacher some 2,000 years ago. When he was near the age of 30, Confucius founded the first private school in China. Anyone could learn from him, regardless of their social status. Confucius created a precedent for civilian education in Chinese history. Becoming a teacher was also his lifelong career. Legend holds that the classes of Confucius were peaceful and lively. In the eyes of his students, Confucius was mild-mannered but demanding, dignified but temperate, and always solemn and serene. Legend says that in his lifetime, Confucius taught more than 3,000 students, 72 of whom became famous. The respect to Confucius paid by Chinese emperors and rulers is expressed in the most direct way in the courtyard. The 13 steely pavilions were built one after another over a period of 557 years, from 1191 to 1748. The site stores 533 steles established in the Tang, Song, Jin, Yuan, Ming and Qing dynasties, as well as the Republic of China. They're basically inscribed with texts worshipping Confucius. Each stele is housed in a square wooden structure. The stone stablet stands on a turtle-like monster called a Bi-Xi, the son of the dragon in Chinese mythology, good at bearing a heavy load. Only a stone tablet built by an emperor can stand on a Bi-Xi. Da Cheng Gate is the last gate of the Temple of Confucius. It is covered with yellow glazed tiles, which lend it a magnificent and extraordinary feel. Its east and west corners respectively overlap with the eaves of two steely pavilions, forming a great spectacle. After passing through the spacious grounds, people find that in their worship and adoration of Confucius, especially after shaking off their restless moods, they're prepared to walk into the center of the temple in a humble spirit of admiration. On its platform with double stone fences, this magnificent hall towers into the sky. In the middle of the double cornices, the characters meaning Da Chang Hall are firmly guarded by wooden dragons laced with gold. This is the core building inside the temple grounds dedicated to the worship of Confucius. Da Chang Hall is 32 meters high and 54 meters long from east to west. The sanctuary is 34 meters deep, and it was built in the Song dynasty during the 11th century. Da Chang Hall features sharp color contrasts and a solemn and gorgeous style. It is indeed a truly superb example of ancient Chinese architectural art. The most outstanding features of Da Chang Hall are the 10 round pillars under its eaves. They were carved by the masons of Huizhou and Hui province over a period of 20 years during the Ming dynasty. Each pillar, at nearly 6 meters high, is carved with 2 dragons, one facing upwards and one downwards, and each playing with a fireball in a sea of clouds. The design is executed in accordance with the ancient technique of deep reliefs. All 10 dragon pillars are beautifully and uniquely designed. The rooms on both sides of Da Chang Hall are up to 100 meters long, with the 2 red corridors adding to the magnificence of the place. These wooden memorial tablets in the rooms enshrine 156 students of Confucius and later outstanding successors. In the middle of Da Chang Hall is the statue of Confucius. Confucius vividly manifests a righteous image with a solemn expression, accepting homage from sentient beings. Thus, Confucius, after being respected continuously for 2,000 years, is considered similar to a saint. The Confucius family mansion, located to the east of the Temple of Confucius, consists of 9 courtyards divided into 3 groups of buildings in the centre, east and west. It includes 463 rooms and occupies an area of more than 16 hectares. What remains today is the architecture of the Ming and Qing dynasties. It is a unique ancient Chinese aristocratic manor integrating government offices and residences. As the residence for later generations of Confucius, the building complex had to reflect both hierarchy and ethics in the architecture. There is a strict symmetrical axis spanning the architectural complex, upon which a series of buildings are laid out according to a primary and secondary sequence. This screen gate is of a very special style in ancient Chinese architecture. Four columns support an ornately painted roof. Decorated with 8 drooping carved wooden buds, it's called the festoon gate. This hall is designed for the holding of various ceremonies. Painted below its eaves are 26 colourful clouds. The beams inside the hall are also painted with coloured clouds so that people feel as if they are floating amongst them. This stone sculpture, created from a single piece of rock from one of the largest freshwater lakes in southern China, reflects a particular aspect of Chinese landscape architecture and lends a stately atmosphere. The inner chambers of the Confucius family mansion are comprised of 4 courtyards in an architectural style very different from the government offices. All the buildings in the inner chambers reveal the luxurious and elegant aesthetic tastes of ancient noble residences in China. The animal drawn on the wall is a greedy, mythical beast that can swallow gold and silver. It was painted on the inner side as a warning against corruption. The front main building, one of the main buildings of the inner chambers, maintains its original appearance. The rear building is where the owner lives. The downstairs gallery displays typical features of ancient Chinese architecture. The present arrangement contains the furnishings of Confucius's 77th generation from when the descendant was married in 1936. The Temple of Confucius and the Confucius family mansion reflect the architectural styles of nearly 1,000 years of Chinese history. The buildings generally used wood in their overall framework and various forms of brackets to support the structure. The courtyard-style layout focuses on symmetry. The Temple of Confucius and the Confucius family mansion are just a manifestation of a spatial approach which emphasizes attention to the overall shape and layout. They not only serve as buildings, but also represent the ideals of all things living in harmony, according to Confucian thought. Over a period of 2,000 years, the cemetery of Confucius, after much expansion and renovation during the succession of the dynasties, has grown to occupy a total area of 2 square kilometers, much larger than today's Chufu. In the cemetery of Confucius, there are more than 40,000 trees of various kinds. Legend has it that after Confucius died, his students brought seeds from many rare species of tree from far and wide and then planted them in the cemetery. Over this stone bridge is the tomb of Confucius. First, we see a high gate. Then we see a path, on both sides of which are 4 pairs of stone statues built during the 11th century in the Song dynasty. This is the burial place of the great man, Confucius. The tomb, 30 meters long and 5 meters high, is in the shape of a horse's back, a special, honorable shape for a tomb. This tombstone was made in the year 1443, and it's inscribed with the words, "Tomb of the Great Established Supreme Sage of Culture and Education." This is a truly unique and lofty title. Also in the cemetery of Confucius are more than 3,000 ancient stone tablets that have recorded the ups and downs of the Confucius family over thousands of years. In the study of the Chinese calligraphic arts, the scripts on these stone tablets are priceless. The cemetery of Confucius is the world's largest, longest, and best preserved family cemetery. Over a period of more than 2,000 years, more than 100,000 descendants of Confucius have been buried here. In his life, Confucius experienced plenty of grief. At an early age, he became an orphan, and later he lost his wife and his son. In his old age, he even lost his favorite pupil. In the year 479 BC, Confucius was 73 years old. One day in the April of that year, Confucius summoned his disciples to his side. He said to them, "I will leave these books to you. Thoughts live in books. After I am dead, do not stay here. Spread the truth about life to the world."